Continuing along, let's talk about configuring services, or as they're called in the Unix world, daemons. Now, daemons can be started at system boot when the computer comes up, or they can be controlled manually. They can be started, stopped, and restarted. Now, one of the key files and processes that starts up services when the computer starts up is the inetd process, and it uses the inetd.conf file. We also have a way of starting services that are located in the /etc/rc.d directory, and there are service keywords that are contained in this directory, and you can start, stop, or restart those. So we basically have two things here we're looking at. We're looking at inetd and inetd.conf, and then we're also looking at services that can be manually started, stopped, or restarted in the rc.d directory. So let's take a look at both of those. We're in our virtual machine for BSD, and we're talking about inetd and inetd.conf. Now, inetd is a process basically that wraps other processes. In inetd, we can choose to start or stop or disable or enable certain processes, daemons, that are configurable by the user, but also that are used by the network. In other words, people can come from other systems on the network and connect to those systems. And this is done through inetd, kind of the parent process of all these other network-based processes. Now, inetd uses a configuration file called inetd.conf. And if you're wondering, in the Linux world, sometimes we use xinetd and xinetd.conf. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But let's look at an inetd.conf file here in a moment. First of all, where is inetd on the system? And that's pretty easy. It's in /user/smin/inetd. It's man page, as of course where you see it on the screen there. If we look at, let's do, where are we at right now? We're in /etc, and that's where we'll find inetd.conf. So let's do a less inetd.conf, and what we're going to see basically is different services that are commented out, and right now they're commented out because they have the little hash mark in front of them. If we remove that hash mark in any Unix configuration file, normally that means we're enabling that line in the file. For example, if we wanted FTP enabled in this file, we would take away the little hash mark in front of it. So we would enable FTP. It's a stream protocol, it uses TCP, and there's different options we can use, such as the no-wait root, in other words, who owns it or who is able to use it, and where it comes from in the system, where that daemon is located on the system. And the same thing with telnet, shell, the login, the finger, and we can add different processes as we see fit. Daytime. These are some of the defaults that are actually in the inetd.conf file, but we can add other ones too, depending upon what protocols we want to enable for users on the network. Now, inetd has the ability to enable or disable these services on startup. How do we basically do this? Well, we edit this file. We, again, as I said, we uncomment these as we need to, or we even add new lines with different protocols as we need to. Now, the other thing I want to show you is the RC files. Now, we've looked earlier at the rc.conf file, but let's look at it again. It's also in /etc, and these are the basic services that are loaded when the computer starts up. The init process loads these, by the way, but we can add or change these as we choose to, and we can do this with a simple text editor. We can edit this file just as we would any other Unix configuration file. Now, something else I want to show you is the rc.d directory, and that's also located in /etc. And if we do a directory on this, we're going to see different service keywords in their different files, and these basically start services. If a service is startable in rc.conf, then we should be able to start it, stop it, or restart it by using its keyword. Let's say SSHD, for example, we may want to restart it because it's not working well or something. We can issue that command if we like. Now, normally we cannot stop or start or restart a service that is not enabled in the rc.conf file that we just looked at. There is a way to do it, but normally you don't really need to do that unless you're troubleshooting something. But how you would start or restart a service is actually very easy. For example, you could say /etc/rcd/sshd, for example. And we know that that service, as we looked at just a minute ago, is enabled in rc.conf. So we should be able to restart it, and we would restart it by doing that. So it would stop the SSHD service and then restart it. So we can manually affect the services as long as they're configured properly in certain other files such as rc.conf. We can do this automatically through the inetd process. We can do this automatically through the rc.conf process and init, or we can manually do this. So we just covered a little bit about how to manage your service automatically on startup and manually if you like.